If you're a new grad PA, you can probably relate to this video. Yeah, okay, I could too. You finally graduate, you pass your boards, you get the job, the six-figure income is here, and then things sort of slap you in the face and it's not all what you thought. Well, I'm going to talk through the ways that you can maximize your money as a brand new grad PA in the first year of practice. I'm Kristin Burton, I'm a critical care PA, and I went from $161,000 in student loan debt to a millionaire in the first 6 years of practice as a PA. So it can be done, and I'm going to show you how. All right, first things first, you have to have some type of cash flow system that actually works. You'll hear a lot talked about these 50, 30, 20 type of rules. 50% of your income goes to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to like investments and savings. Now, I low-key hate these rules of thumb because they take all of the personalization out of personal finance. If I had followed that rule of thumb, I would by no means be where I am today financially, because it took a lot more than 20% of income going towards debt, investment, savings for me to become a millionaire at 31. But if you're struggling with the idea of spending all of your income, like everything's coming in, everything seems to be going out, you're not quite sure what's happening or where it's going, that can be a good place to start. I think you need a lot more strategy surrounding your student loan plan and your investing plan if you actually want to succeed than following these generic budgeting rules. You should find a system that works, right? I have a system I teach, it's free, it's inside the Millionaires in Medicine Club. All you have to do to get access is just go below, click the link, you can get in. I teach the whole thing and I have downloadable trackers that you can use yourself to implement it. I have my own system because my system is structured around making financial progress. The problem with budgeting is that you can be a very diligent budgeter and always be on the hamster wheel. Like you can say, hey, I've kept a diligent budget for the last 12 months, but your net worth has stayed basically the same. By focusing the whole system around making financial progress, you eliminate that possibility. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're a budgeter, hopefully you're not spending more than you make, so that's good, right? You're a step above a lot of folks, but that's not great. Great is actually building wealth, actually moving the net worth needle. You can also use apps like YNAB or Every Dollar. It doesn't really matter how you do it, you just should do it. But budgeting without a big picture strategy for student loan debt and for investing, I think is kind of an exercise in just making sure that you're not a sinking ship. It doesn't actually get you to any particular destination. Now, the next piece I want to talk about is income optimization. This is tricky as a new grad because it's pretty hard to negotiate, right? I teach a whole negotiation system to our clients, basically leverages the business model of medicine and your skills as a value add to your employer. Well, I was a new grad once too. Like, you don't have a ton of skills yet. You're still learning. And so you can't really say, hey, I'm this beast that generates all this revenue for the practice when you're like slowly building up your patient load and you're still quite slow and everything is hard. And so you have to take a different approach. Now, of course, you can utilize multiple job offers to negotiate, and you should, but that part can be a little tricky. We talk a lot about side hustles, so I want to address it here because I get a lot of questions from new grads about this. Now, I took a bunch of per diem work as a new grad. However, if you are a new grad, your primary role is getting good, really good at whatever it is you do. So if you're an urgent care PA, you be a beast urgent care PA, which takes energy, effort, focus. And so if you're going to take per diem work on, it needs to be in the same field you're already working in, so that it's working towards that same goal. For example, the very beginning of my clinical career, like 10 years ago, I was working as a hospitalist PA, and all of the per diem work I did was in hospitalist medicine. I tried taking one per diem job in urgent care. I sucked at it. Well, I didn't think about the fact, hello, there's children there, right? I'm seeing adult inpatients, and now all of a sudden someone has tasked me with seeing an outpatient kid. Okay, that's a totally different skill set. And it was overwhelming and honestly detracted from my goal. But by having the other per diem jobs that I ultimately stuck with, being in the same field, I was able to increase income while also like getting more reps in, right? Like rounding on more patients, doing more admissions. That actually made me better at my primary job, which then pushed me towards my long-term goal of being able to build clinical skills. I ended up job hopping, negotiating, and raising my income as quickly as I could. Now, just because you're a new grad, you might not be negotiating on day one for more money, but you need to already have in mind, by year 3, how am I going to be making like 50K more than I'm making now? That only happens with you intentionally thinking about, what is my career? What is my trajectory? What are the skills I need to build? The people around me that professionally are crushing it, both clinically and financially, what are they doing to have those high-paying jobs? And what do I need to do now to position myself for that? Now, I'm going to put up here an image of what it actually looks like to be a PA side hustler, right? And in this example, it's just earning an extra 15K a year. So not a ton of money extra. And that can come from a million different ways, right? That can come from moonlighting and doing a million clinical or even non-clinical side hustles. But if you're actually taking that extra money, you're not like squandering it. In this case, you're investing it. The difference in net worth result at the end is like $1 million, okay? Not an exaggeration, it's a huge amount of money. That is the difference between earning what you earn and just a little bit more if you're doing the right stuff with it. And so whether you're doing some type of side hustle or you're thinking, how do I negotiate for $15,000 more, those small income bumps, they make a huge difference. Now, next I'll pull up an example of some of my favorite side hustles for PAs, kind of talk through which of them are new grad applicable and what you should be looking towards. Okay, per diem shifts will go first. This is actually low-key my least favorite. And I do think if you utilize this, like I said I did, you should have it be on a relatively short-term basis. Doing more of what you already do, especially if you're in a high-stress field, can just lead to burnout. So you gotta be careful using per diem shifts for a long time period. This is a great solution to, I just graduated and I have some credit card debt to clear. I just graduated, I don't have any savings yet. Like taking some per diem work in your specialty that you're already working full time in, that can be a good short-term play. But that's not the play for long-term financial independence, is just work more, right? At some point you need to learn how to make more money. And until you do that, you're always on the hamster wheel, right? Side hustles are great, but they're not the long-term play. Now, telehealth is a good option for a side hustle because it allows you to be remote, which is very nice. Having the extra work on your off day be in your jamma bottoms at your house, that adds an element of niceness, right? That can sometimes help increase income without increasing burnout. Academia is a great one. Not always the most high paying, I've done this too, but really professionally rewarding. If you have gained some knowledge or some clinical skills in a field, sharing them with people coming up behind you can be one of the most rewarding side hustles there is, even though, to be frank, what you're going to get paid to teach a couple of credits over a semester is going to be less than what you could earn doing some other side hustle when you think about time spent. But when you think about what are ways I can build my CV, what are ways I can position myself for transitions out of clinical medicine later on, this can be a great stepping stone. Consulting or speaking, I think, is actually probably the best side hustle in the long term. Realistically, having pharmaceutical contacts, having exposure to the pharmaceutical industry can be incredibly powerful for future options for you. I took a job speaking for a medical device, and that has actually opened doors that I did not expect to open, not only from the skill set development, but from the networking side. And so think about those things. Now, academia and speaking or consulting often require a couple of years of experience, but that does not prevent you from building a relationship with the rep that serves your group right now, proving yourself to be engaging, professional, social, etc., so that when a speaking opportunity opens up in a couple of years, you're top of mind, right? Think about these things in advance. Much of this requires networking. Expert witness is another great option. It's not up here, but that again usually requires a few years of experience. Typically is something that you're going to network your way into. And so by planning ahead, planting seeds and thinking, how do I build my CV? How do I make myself a more palatable clinician for potential future transitions, thinking about that now from year one, you will be light years ahead of your colleagues. Okay, I briefly need to mention student loan strategy. If you don't have one, you're doing it wrong, right? It's not enough to have a student loan strategy. It's not enough to have an investing strategy. You have to have both. They have to work in concert. You should decide as a brand new grad, am I doing public service loan forgiveness? Am I doing taxable loan forgiveness? Am I doing a standard plan? Am I doing an accelerated plan? And before you decide, you also need to decide your investing system, because one can't exist without the other, right? You can't tell me, hey, I'm going to hit coast fire and be able to reduce my hours because my investment portfolio is so big in 4 years. And oh, by the way, I'm also going to pay off my loans in 2. Okay, well, you're going to have 7 jobs because the math doesn't math, right? You have to have a real strategy that actually takes both things into account. Now, if you want to learn more about what those strategies can look like and how the investing piece fits in, get inside the Millionaires in Medicine Club. The link will be below. It's totally free. And I'll actually go through examples breaking down what it looks like with specific student loan debt burdens depending on the strategy that you choose. So this is important. You don't pick a random payment plan by whatever is the least amount per month, okay? You pick an overarching strategy. That tells you the payment plan. And you do it in conjunction with your investing plan. If you do not invest early, I'm talking from the first paycheck, you will regret it. I can't tell you how many people we work with that start investing in their mid-30s, even their early 30s, and go, I wish I would have done this when I was 28. I wish I would have known this when I was 29. Your investing dollars right now are way more powerful than what they will be when you're 35. The only reason I ever got where I am has nothing to do with what I did with money in my 30s and everything to do with what I did with money in my 20s. You don't get to be an early millionaire by waiting. Okay, you have to lean into that and lean into it right away. Now, as you're probably thinking like, hey, how am I gonna do all this stuff between investing right away, figuring out my student loans right away, like I need to save some money. Well, the 2 big things you need to keep in check in order to make this happen are your overhead expenses of transportation and housing. Now, I'm gonna put up some numbers here. This, if you're thinking about home ownership, this is a max mortgage you should have as a PA or NP. Now, why does it matter by income? The rule of thumb is you should not spend more than 20% of your gross monthly income on housing, whether that's rent or whether that's a mortgage. And if it's a mortgage, it includes taxes and insurance. And so that's how the numbers come about, where the income determines the mortgage. Now, in some high cost of living areas, you guys, this may not be possible for you to go buy a house right now in this market with less money down, right? Like the hack to getting into a house that maybe is a little bit out of your income is to put more money down, right? Because then on a monthly cash flow standpoint, you can still afford it. Well, if you're a brand new grad, you don't have the extra money to put down, right? So that you really do have to stick to these metrics. And remember, these metrics are true for the monthly payment regardless of the financing you choose. We're not anti-medical professional loans, and in fact, we hook people up with them all the time. But that basically says, hey, I'm going to put less money down. I'm not going to pay PMI, private mortgage insurance, but I'm going to put less money down. So my monthly payment's going to be bigger. Okay, so it doesn't mean, oh, I can afford a bigger house. It just allows you to move forward with less money down. Keep in mind that 20% rule, that's true for renting, that's true for owning. If you can do that, that will go miles towards you achieving all of the rest of the metrics that you need to hit financially as a new grad. The other piece is transportation. Now, I personally I'm old-fashioned. I think the best thing to do is to buy cars with cash. I've always done that. And I drove a $4,000 Chevy Cobalt, making 6 figures for probably 3 or 4 years before upgrading because I didn't have the cash to do it and I wanted to put that money elsewhere. If you are going to finance, because I recognize it's very difficult as a new grad to pay cash for a car, make sure that your payment is less than 8% of your take-home pay. And please, by all means, do not finance your car in some 72-month term. All that does is increase the likelihood that you're going to wind up upside down on the loan, right? Cars go down in value. And so when you spread the financing out over 1,000,000 trillion years, which is what the auto industry's been doing over recent years, you put yourself in a spot where the likelihood of you being upside down is really high. And now they just charge you gap insurance and do all the stuff to make you deal with the gap, right? But ultimately it just costs you more. So put a reasonable down payment down, finance it over 3-4 years, and make sure that your payment is less than 8% of your take-home pay. Why? We're not like other folks, right? Like if you have, an undergraduate degree and you owe $25,000 in student loan debt, your student loan payment is small. Ours is a mortgage. And so if you take on a big mortgage and a big car payment, and oh, by the way, you have an actual mortgage of a student loan payment as well, the odds of you being able to implement any kind of investing or saving plan goes to poo. So you really have to be intentional about the overhead decisions you make as a new grad. Now is not the time to rapidly increase your lifestyle. As a matter of fact, I think one of the biggest hacks to wealth is whenever you have an increase in income, whether it's because you graduated and got your first job, or because you got a raise or changed jobs, for a year, change nothing about your lifestyle. I'm not saying never increase your lifestyle, but just for a year, like create a lag where every time you earn more, you just use that money for a little bit to just get further ahead. And then you release the lifestyle reins. And if you do that over and over and over again, it's very difficult to end your life broke, right? Odds are you're going to be financially successful that way. Ultimately, saving money as a new PA isn't about like years of deprivation, right? The goal is not for you to have to be super frugal forever. The goal is for you to set yourself up with a strategic plan that will address your student loans, that will build you wealth, allow your expenses to lag a bit to facilitate that, and then rapidly increase your income so that over the next few years, your lifestyle gets to increase too. If you want to be in community with other PAs doing the exact same thing, make sure you click below, get inside the Millionaires in Medicine Club. It's totally free, and we've got literally thousands of PAs in there crushing it with money. So you can learn from them, learn from us, and optimize your financial life.